Doma Sports Talk Worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed. Now, legendary fighter, legendary 8 division champ, what? Manny Pacquiao. Everybody know Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao's in the news, baby, right? For a couple of reasons. One is, he got stripped of his WBA title because, he's been off for a while and the fights that he wanted to come back with are fights that, are not worthy of real fights. We talked about the exhibition against Ryan Garcia, who's 2 weight divisions lower, and the fight with Conor McGregor, who's an MMA or UFC fighter. So those are the fights. And then, the argument for Manny Pacquiao is always going to be, hey, man, the man's 42, 43 years old, and he can fight whoever the hell he wants to. He's a legend. Got it, right? But we were saying, hey, good that they stripped him of the title and gave it to Ugas, so the welterweight division gets some clarity and maybe even undisputed, which is that word that nobody likes, but maybe. So, but Pacquiao has said that he might, he's going to petition to get that belt back, the WBA belt. So let's see if he can get it back. Right? I don't know what they should do. I think they should just leave him. Manny Pacquiao, you don't need belts when you want to fight one of the main guys. Then you're just a champion in recess. I said that in a video about that. But other thing is, we're talking about the Bud Crawford fight. Excuse me a second. And we're talking about that fight. And I was hoping that he would take the Bud Crawford, Terence Crawford fight. That's a big fight. It's a fight that's been, brewing for years. And Manny Pacquiao didn't really want that fight. Neither did his team, neither his promoter or trainer at the time, Freddie Roach. They never wanted Manny to fight Terence Crawford. They thought Terence Crawford was too hard. Freddie Roach said Terence Crawford is a young Floyd Mayweather. We won't have nothing to do with that. Promoter Bob Arum was saying, hey, hold up, we don't want to get Pacquiao. Hurry up here. I'm worried about his well-being. So Pacquiao then said recently, well, shoot. Well, I heard he was in negotiation with Terence Crawford. But the latest news is this, right? Manny Pacquiao said he sat down with, when I sat down and got in touch with Bob Arum, the promoter of Terence Crawford and the former promoter of Manny Pacquiao as well. He says, listen, I want $40 million, right, to fight Bud Crawford. And to put something on top of it, and he only should get $10 million. So he's basically like, I'll get 40, he gets $10 million. Now, most people, when it comes to Pacquiao, it doesn't matter what he says or does. Bottom line, right? Me, that would irk me. That irks me. It's like, okay, that's a lot of money right now in the time that we're living in. I don't know where they're supposed to get that and generate that kind of money, but whatever. But regardless of how much money it is, the disparity is too big. 40 million for Pacquiao, 10 million for Bud Crawford. That's just too much. Bud Crawford is somebody. He's a somebody, the only person that Manny Pacquiao didn't want to fight for years. Imagine that. He didn't want to fight this guy. He's a number one pound for pound guy. He's something Manny Pacquiao's never been before. Undisputed at 140, trying to become undisputed at 147. This is a bad dude. There shouldn't be, Pacquiao should get more, but just not that much more, in my opinion. I know I'm going to be by myself on that because people just, some people just shut it down. I've seen the Congress ignore insurrection. So it doesn't really matter. Sometimes it's just like that. But I've just noticed that when people, they give these outlandish things, I should get 40, you should get 10. I've heard that back in the day, Anthony Joshua, when he was like, about to fight Deontay Wilder. Hey, if he gives me 50 million, thinking he wouldn't get it, but he actually was going to. You hear that then. You hear Teofimo Lopez right now, right? Getting 1.2 million to fight Lomachenko, the number one pound for pound, then wants 10 million to fight Devin Haney, right? And what do these guys have in common? They're awesome guys that you can possibly lose to. And that's when these outlandish things come out. Now, I don't know what's going to happen if Pacquiao going to get to 40 million or 10 million. I was just so elated that they were in negotiations. I don't know if this is a game breaker or not, right? I don't know if it's a game breaker or not. I don't know if it's going to happen. I just think that, when you said 40 million and Terence Crawford to get 10 million, who knows what's going to happen there. It sounds to me like that fight might not happen because of that. I don't know. But I really, really would like to see that fight thing for Pacquiao fans, right? Pacquiao fans, ask yourself now: do you want to see that fight, right? Because during the years when when Pacquiao would fight, Terence Crawford, I never really saw any Pacquiao fans come and say, hey, Bob Arum, we don't think it's the changing of the guard. We think Pacquiao beats Terence Crawford. Make that fight. Bob Arum never got that memo. Nobody was ever getting with him to make the fight with Terence Crawford. All these other Manny Pacquiao just beat Keith Thurman, albeit with I got a question mark there, but he beat Keith Thurman, right? Pacquiao's back in form, whatever. I don't think he beat Jeff Horn, but he beat Keith Thurman, right? Um, he's ready now. Even when it comes to Errol Spence, he's like, man, Errol Spence too slow for me. But when it comes to Terence Crawford, do you hear anything? It's never nothing. This dude is all that. And Terence Crawford, I hear his resume, but I'm gonna do my the top five. I did top 10 pound for pound, but I only did from 10 to 6. The top five is coming. Bottom line is though, Bud is in there, right? So, and in his resume, which I'm gonna touch on there, there's a lot of separation. People would say Bud doesn't have a good resume. That's how they do people when there's separation there. But a Victor Postol was undefeated, right? That was a big win, and there was separation there. A Jeff Horn had just beat Manny Pacquiao in a close fight, but he beat Manny Pacquiao. They looked at it twice to make sure, because Pacquiao doesn't, if he loses, they're going to look at it. They looked at it again, and he lost to Jeff Horn, right? So that's something. If Jeff Horn was undefeated, just beat Pacquiao. Little old Terence Crawford came up there, and there was separation there. Terence Crawford fights Kell Brook. Kell Brook never loses with separation, really. You know what I'm saying? There's huge separation in Terence Crawford Kell Brook fight. Kell Brook lost to Gennady Golovkin with separation after beating Golovkin up, but Golovkin was a lot bigger than him. Jose Benavidez, undefeated guy, separation there, right? The Mean Machine, Kavalikis, undefeated, separation there. There's no close. Terence Crawford ain't got no close fights in there. He don't have a Juan Marquez and the other guys that Pacquiao got close fights with. So you're talking about close fights Pacquiao had, plus the 7 losses too. That's none of that happening with Crawford, ever, right? So therefore, people can come and say, well, his resume is this, his resume is that. Those other fighters will go on to do great things. Victor Postol's still going strong. Mean Machine handling his business. Everybody's still doing stuff, but when they run into this guy, there's separation there. And that we can't get that mixed up when we say resume, right? Because there's separation, right? He's willing to fight everybody. He's number 1 pound for pound. I don't know if Pacquiao should get 40 million, he should get 10, but that's not my area. Who cares? I just don't want it to be a stumbling block for us not to have the fight. I think that's a fight that needs to happen so we can it'll get finally, Terence Crawford has that super high profile fight that he needs so people can stop acting like, he's not this and he's not that. That's the main reason this fight needs to happen. Win or lose. Let's see what's happening going forward. I thought that was actually bad news for Pacquiao saying 40 million at this particular time. But maybe he can get it. Maybe something, somebody might know something I don't know. But for me, that's bad news. Let's see what's happening going forward. Doma Sports Talk Worldwide. I'm out of here, y'all.